What if I told you that sometimes the world simply swallows a child whole? No trace, no explanation, just a sudden, aching silence. In this video, we uncover three of the most unsettling, unsolved disappearances of children in American history. Cases so chilling, they still haunt investigators and families to this day. These aren't just stories of missing kids. They're tales of hope that flickers in the dark, of families that refuse to stop searching, and of the human spirit's quiet strength in the face of unimaginable loss. Stay with us until the end, because in these shadows, there's more than just heartbreak. There's a testament to the power of love and the enduring hope that someday the answers will come. In a world brimming with noise, where every second is punctuated by the clatter of daily life, there are moments so silent they echo forever. These are the moments when a child vanishes, not into a crowd or behind a door, but into the void itself, leaving nothing behind but questions that haunt generations. In this story, we unravel three of the most confounding disappearances of children in American history. Three cases that defy reason, confound experts, and pierce the hearts of everyone who hears them. They are the stories of Emily R. Madison, Sophie G. Turner, and Brian D. Harris. Three young lives that once glowed like candles in the night, only to be snuffed out by an invisible hand. Picture the laughter of a child at a family picnic, the excitement of a little girl racing home to her mother, the innocent game of hide and seek in the great green woods. These scenes should have been nothing more than memories tucked safely away in family albums, but in an instant they became nightmares. Endless, echoing nightmares. No footprints, no witnesses, just a hollow space where a child should have been. As we step into the shadows of these cases, remember this. Each of these children had a family that loved them fiercely, a life waiting to be lived, a future abruptly stolen. What you're about to hear is not simply a retelling of three lost children. It is a journey through the hidden fears of every parent, the dark places of the human heart, and the flickering hope that one day the truth will be found. Emily, Sophie, and Brian, they are more than just names on missing posters. They are whispers in the wind, reminders that sometimes the world is not as safe as we believe. It was supposed to be a day of warmth and laughter. On that crisp June morning in 1983, the Marshall family, now known as the Madisons, gathered at the sun-dappled meadows of Helena National Forest in Montana. Emily R. Madison, only 4 years old, was the spark of the day. Her gap-toothed smile lit up every face around her, her giggles weaving through the towering pines like birdsong. For her family, this picnic was a gentle reprieve from life's hardships, a chance to be together and forget the weight of the world. But the forest had other plans. Emily, clad in shorts and a t-shirt, played near the water's edge with two other children. Their laughter filled the air as they explored the crumbling remains of an old cabin, its weathered logs telling stories of a bygone frontier. The adults were only steps away, chatting in the sun, blissfully unaware that within moments, their lives would be forever changed. As the other children ran ahead toward the beaver dams, Emily lagged behind. She was always the curious one, captivated by shadows, by the secrets they seemed to promise. When her playmates turned to look for her, they saw only emptiness. Emily was gone. No cry for help, no sign of struggle, just a sudden, suffocating silence. In that instant, the forest, so alive only seconds before, grew cold and menacing. The search was immediate and relentless. Helicopters thundered overhead, their blades slicing the summer air. Hundreds of volunteers trudged through the rugged terrain, eyes scanning every inch of mossy earth. Specially trained dogs, with noses that had found dozens of lost souls before, were brought in. One such dog, Duke, picked up Emily's scent, and then, as abruptly as she had disappeared, it too vanished. It was as if she had been plucked from the earth itself, carried away by an invisible hand. The searchers drained beaver dams, their fingers blue and shaking in the icy water. They crawled through brambles that tore at their clothes, shouted her name into the echoing emptiness of abandoned mine shafts. The forest held its secrets tight, and with every passing hour, hope waned. And then the rain came, sheets of water turning trails to rivers, washing away whatever trace of Emily might have remained. But what turned this from a tragedy into something far darker were the whispered words of two children who had been there that day. They spoke of a man in a jogging suit, a stranger who had appeared from nowhere, spoken to them all, and held Emily's gaze just a moment too long. One of the children later told police that Emily had whispered almost dreamily, "I have to follow the shadow." 4 simple words that would become a chilling refrain in a story that grew more sinister with every retelling. This was no ordinary disappearance. This was a puzzle that refused to be solved, a mystery that clawed at the heart of a family and a nation. As we move deeper into this tale, we begin to see the cracks in the foundation of safety we take for granted, the realization that even the brightest days can end in the blackest night. February 22nd, 1985 was meant to be a day of laughter and promise for 8-year-old Sophie G. Turner. It was a day of light snow and soft winds in rural Pennsylvania, one of those rare winter afternoons that seemed to glow under the weight of new-fallen snow. Sophie had spent her day at Winfield Elementary, where she was known for her bright hazel eyes and endless curiosity. That morning, her mother, Olivia Turner, had kissed her goodbye at the bus stop with the tender words every parent knows by heart, "I love you." But as the yellow bus pulled away that afternoon, carrying Sophie homeward, a sinister presence was already in motion. Debbie Burke, the mother of Sophie's friend, watched from her car as the children clambered off the bus. 3 of them rushed into her vehicle, but Sophie continued her short walk down the 150-yard gravel driveway that led to her home, a walk she had done countless times before. Debbie's eyes caught on an unusual detail that would become the dark heartbeat of this case. A faded blue-green van, older, dented, with a painting of a skier slicing through mountain peaks on its side. It was parked near the bus stop, idling in silence like a predator in the snow. Sophie, blissfully unaware of the van's menace, walked calmly past it, her breath steaming in the cold air. Debbie would be the last person to see her alive and unafraid. Somewhere along that narrow stretch of driveway where snow muffled the sound of every footstep, Sophie vanished. No scream, no struggle, no sign she had ever been there. When Olivia looked out the window, waiting for her daughter's joyful arrival, she saw only the empty white expanse and felt her heart begin to crack. Within minutes, panic spread through the Turner home like wildfire. Olivia and her husband Leroy rushed outside, their voices echoing through the still winter air. But the only reply was the endless hush of snow. The footprints they expected to see, tiny prints leading home, were nowhere to be found. Instead, they discovered tire tracks in the dirt, deep and fresh, only 50 yards from the house. Evidence of a silent abduction that had left no witness and no mercy. The search that followed was feverish and desperate. Neighbors, friends, even strangers combed the snowy woods, their gloved hands parting icy underbrush in a frantic race against time. Police arrived quickly, following Debbie's account of the van, focusing on that haunting mural of a skier that should have been easy to find. Yet the van seemed to have vanished as completely as Sophie herself. Every lead that emerged, every hopeful phone call, turned to ash. Witnesses reported seeing the van repainted black within days, as if to erase any trace of its role in Sophie's disappearance. Investigators traced registrations, interviewed body shops, and pored over hundreds of tips. But the van, like Sophie, had been swallowed by the winter silence. Sophie's face became a symbol of heartbreak and hope. It was printed on thousands of postcards mailed across America, each one asking the same question, "Have you seen me?" For Olivia Turner, every postcard was a prayer and a wound. She never stopped searching, never stopped believing that somehow, somewhere, her daughter was still out there. The case of Sophie G. Turner was not just a family's nightmare. It became a rallying cry for change. It marked the birth of a national effort to find missing children, turning personal tragedy into a legacy of hope for countless families. But for Olivia, the question that mattered most remained painfully unanswered. What happened to her little girl on that snowy February day? June 14th, 1969, dawned bright and clear, the kind of day that should have been perfect for camping in the heart of Tennessee's Great Smoky Mountains. Brian D. Harris, only 6 years old, was brimming with excitement as he joined his father, grandfather, and older brother on a weekend hike that was more than a family tradition. It was a rite of passage. The green meadows of Spence Field stretched before them like an emerald sea, the wind carrying the scent of pine and the promise of summer. Brian was small but fearless, his laughter ringing across the field as he and the other boys, faces flushed with the joy of adventure, dashed between the towering trees. For his father, the moment was a promise, the continuation of a family line that had trekked these hills for generations. But in the time it took to glance away, that promise was torn apart. The children had been playing hide and seek, their giggles blending with the rustling leaves. Brian darted to the north, his bright red shirt a flash of color amid the green. When the other children burst from the woods moments later, shrieking with laughter, Brian was not among them. His father called out, voice strong at first, then tinged with panic. No answer came. The meadow that had been so full of life moments before fell silent, as if the forest itself had swallowed his son. What followed was the largest search in the park's history. Park rangers, rescue squads, even Green Berets on a nearby training mission, hundreds of determined souls scoured every inch of the Smokies. Helicopters hovered above, their blades chopping the air in desperate rhythm. Search dogs strained at leashes, noses pressed to the earth. But as the hours turned to days, hope began to wither. On the first night, a sudden summer storm swept through the mountains, lashing the searchers with wind and cold rain. Trails turned to rivers of mud, and the calls for Brian's name were drowned out by the storm's fury. Volunteers pressed on, hacking through brambles, crawling on their bellies into the densest thickets, refusing to yield to the darkness. But each hour that passed was an hour further from the boy they hoped to find. Whispers began to circulate among the searchers. A pair of small footprints found near Eagle Creek, a mile from where Brian vanished. A man seen slipping away through the underbrush, his face hidden by shadows. A scream heard echoing across the mountain, chilling and fleeting. Each clue was a spark of hope that died as quickly as it flared. For Brian's father, the days blurred into a nightmare of wet earth and hollow echoes. On what would have been Brian's 7th birthday, he stood in the open door of a helicopter, his voice shaking as he called out his son's name over the roar of the blades. Somewhere below, he prayed, Brian might hear him and answer, but the mountains held their silence. By the time the search was suspended, more than 1,400 people had walked those ridges and valleys. They found nothing. The forest had taken Brian, and it would not give him back. Yet his name did not fade into the underbrush. The tragedy of his disappearance forced the National Park Service to confront its own failures, reshaping forever how search and rescue missions are handled, not just in the Smokies but around the world. Decades later, the name Brian D. Harris still lingers in the minds of rescuers and hikers alike, a reminder of how quickly a child can vanish into the wild, how even the most determined search can end in heartbreak, and how some mysteries are meant to remain hidden beneath the leaves. 3 names: Emily R. Madison, Sophie G. Turner, Brian D. Harris. 3 lives interrupted in the fleeting seconds it takes to turn away. 3 families bound by the same endless question. Where did they go? The forests, the snowy roads, the quiet meadows. Each place still holds the whispers of their laughter, the memory of their small footprints, the echoes of the love that refuses to die. For the families left behind, each dawn brings the same hollow ache. Emily's mother stands at the kitchen sink, her eyes drawn to the woods beyond the window, the last place she saw her little girl's dimpled smile. Olivia Turner still drives the snow-dusted roads of Pennsylvania, scanning for a flash of her daughter's coat or the flicker of that distinctive van. Brian's father returns, year after year, to the Smokies, his feet retracing the same trails he once carried his son upon, driven by the faint hope that one day the forest will give up its secrets. But beyond the grief, beyond the endless nights of searching and the dead-end leads, there is something more powerful that endures. It is the love that will not yield, the fierce devotion that no shadow can consume. These parents, these brothers and sisters, refuse to let time bury the memory of those they lost. In every faded photograph, every worn-out search poster, every name still spoken in a trembling voice, that love burns bright, a light that the darkness cannot extinguish. Emily, Sophie, Brian, their stories are more than unsolved mysteries. They are reminders of the fragile wonder of childhood, the dangerous beauty of the world, and the indomitable strength of the human heart. Though decades have passed, though the trails have grown over with moss and memory, their names remain on the lips of those who remember. Their laughter may be gone, but their spirits have not been silenced. And so we hold on to hope, even as the years roll by. We hold on to the simple, unbreakable truth that a family's love does not fade, even when the world around it crumbles. That even in the face of the cruelest mysteries, that love becomes a promise, one that says, "You are not forgotten." Somewhere, somehow, the truth still waits to be found. And until that day comes, the love remains, unwavering and undefeated. If you found these stories as haunting and compelling as I did, I invite you to share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. Do you believe the forest holds its secrets forever, or that every mystery leaves behind a clue, waiting for the right heart to discover it? Let us know how these tales of love and loss have touched you. And if you want to hear more stories that search for light in the darkness, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Together we can keep these voices alive, keep these names from fading into the shadows. Because in the end, every story, no matter how cold, no matter how lost, is a reminder that love endures, and so does hope.